Hey YouTube, I love technology, especially phones. Some people might even say that I'm obsessed, but regardless of the amount of pouches or phone cases that I've bought in the past 3 months, that's a lie. So in my last video, I gave an overview on what Pixel phones are and how they got to where they are right now. But today I'm going to tell you about the one I use, which is the So I've been using this phone, the Pixel 9 Pro, not the XL, for the past 7 months now, and all I have to say is that it's great, amazing. There's literally nothing wrong with it. Okay, hear me out. It's definitely not all sunshine and rainbow. I of course have some gripe with the device, but what is that one thing that frustrates me the most? The thing that makes me want, wish I could drop my ego and just switch to an iPhone. And it might not be for the reason you're thinking about. I would have said it's the video recording, which is still lacking. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's literally what I used to record my last video. The link is up here or down in the description if you want to go watch that. But it's just that I feel a bit frustrated that iPhones do significantly better in that aspect, and where you see this difference is at night and low light shots. It's kind of crazy how much the Pixel improves year over year on video, but iPhones also keep getting better. But the thing is, I like to give Google the edge here, since they only started making their dedicated phones 10 years ago, while Apple has up to 17 years of experience in the smartphone business. Might not sound like much of an excuse, but I think it still counts. So now, why this particular reason for video doesn't bother me as much as it's supposed to is because of one single reason, and that reason is called Video Boost. Last 2 years, Google added this to the Pixel 8 Pros and also Night Sight for video, and I have to say this makes a shocking difference. Just take a look at these two clips. Video Boost before and after it's applied. So how this happens is that I think the phone sort of records more info than it usually would and then uploads that footage to Google servers, and after a while it spits out something that has drastically improved the footage, adding Night Sight or even upscaling the video to 8K with all that, Google processing magic. I personally think it makes a huge difference and allows the Pixel to produce really stunning videos, and that puts it right on par with the iPhone's video recording, except this may take a while to process, and you might want to, take note of that. Because there are some times I actually find myself waiting for my video to get boosted, but some other times I don't really think about it. But something to note is that the videos are significantly larger, so I recommend getting a version of the Pixel 9 Pro with higher storage or just paying for Google storage, which I have to say is very convenient. So another thing you would think is the main gripe with the phone is the battery, but no, it's not even close. The battery for me is actually pretty great. I honestly have no issues with battery performance with the Pixel 9 Pro. It's without a doubt an all-day battery, getting an average of 8 hours of screen on time. And if you want to take it further with battery saver, I can sometimes get to 13 hours, and for me that's pretty good. But the processing speed of the Tensor G4, on the other hand, still isn't bad, but when you push the phone to the edge, like for heavy gaming, you can see the limits with some frame drops, which doesn't happen with the Snapdragon on something like the S25 Ultra. The 9 Pro also gets a bit hot, especially when I'm recording 4K video for prolonged periods. But the good thing is that Google added a vapor chamber in the Pixel 9 Pro and the Pro XL for the first time in any Pixel, so it does a pretty good job of spreading the heat evenly around the phone, so there's no one extremely hot spot, which is very good for the phone's health, given that Google is also supporting these phones for 7 years of software updates. Okay, my conclusion for the Tensor chip is that I think it still has a lot of growing up to do in regards to efficiency and thermals, and that could really push the battery life to a whole new level, being one of the best possibly. Alright, now let's talk about what it's like taking pictures with the Google Pixel 9 Pro. Like I said in my last video, these phones have always been amazing at taking pictures ever since the first Pixel, but does it really still hold up? The short answer is yes, but the longer side is a bit more complicated than that. And that would lead us to my main gripe with Google Pixel phone. See, one thing Google really leans on is software processing, which I'm not going to lie, is pretty darn good. And you can see this from how the Pixel 2 up to the Pixel 5 used the same camera hardware, and they were somehow still able to keep making each new phone have better camera and just beating the competition every single year. And seriously, if you think about that, it's very impressive. As opposed to Samsung's approach, which is to like pack as much hardware into their phones to get great results. And that's what I think is special about Pixels, always pushing the boundaries of what software can do. But I low-key wish they would do more regarding their hardware. And I don't just mean about the camera. The speakers and microphones are another part I wish they would put in more effort, like, with the iPhones. So in case you're curious, I'm kind of using iPhones as the benchmarks in this area only because I'd say they are sort of the best right now for speakers, microphones, and build quality. Well, except for the 17 Pros, which are like, dense magnet. Sorry. Except for the 17 Pros, which are like dense magnets. The Pixel 9 Pro actually pushes very close to the iPhone 16 Pro in this, hardware category. But personally, I'd say it's not actually there yet. I haven't gotten the chance to use the new Pixel 10s and 10 Pros, but I've seen a lot of reviews and a lot of talks about it having just as good as speakers as the iPhone 17s, but I'll wait until I can get my hands on it and test it out myself. That'll be really soon though, so subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that video. So after all these issues, why do I still use my Pixel 9 Pro? Why have I not felt the urge to like try to daily like an iPhone, since 5 years ago when I got the autonomy to choose which phone I could use? Why do I get bored or frustrated when I try to use an iPhone for like 2 days tops? Well, it's how perfectly this phone fits into my personal daily life. It might have some drawbacks, but this phone does very well, in areas that really matter for a smartphone, at least for me. For instance, Gemini is really so ahead of Siri. It's kind of crazy, but I'm curious to see what Apple does, next year with Siri now that they have this new deal with Google. But right now, Gemini allows me to do a lot of things even without touching my phone, like, the speech to text that works like magic. And honestly, most times I just talk like I've become so reliant on this thing. And also for scheduling tasks and events just by saying what I want to do, and sometimes it feels like it already knows what I want before I even ask. Also, one area that Google doesn't compromise is in the screen of the pixels. Personally for me, I think it's the most important part of a smartphone because it's literally where you look at, 80% of the time you're using your phone. And in the last 3 years, Pixel phones have always been getting the best screens that the industry has to offer on, even their base budget phones, and I really, really love this. Not to even talk of the UI. The new Material 3 Expressive that just came to the Pixel 9 Pro also, in my opinion, isn't really the best overall. Then again, it does really well for things that, matter, like being the best overall comfort in experience for me. I do wish they would let us do a bit more customization, especially on the lock screen, but what they offer already is, really good, and I'm actually okay with waiting for it to keep evolving. For my day-to-day usage, the Pixel 9 Pro ticks all of the boxes for what a smartphone needs to do, at least for me. I don't game a lot, so I can't really say much about the gaming experience with the phone, but if you want me to make a dedicated video testing that out, or if you have any thoughts on it, I'd love to read them in the comments. Alright, now, so the big question remains, should you buy the Pixel 9 Pro if your budget is around 850 to 900,000 naira, or let's just say $600 right now? Because these prices are definitely not something that the average Nigerian can just spend on a phone without, having to really think about it a lot. But also, these prices are definitely going to drop in a few months, so that's a really good thing. Again, the short answer is yes, definitely you should buy the Pixel 9 Pro. But the long answer is that it still kind of depends on who you are personally. When I, recommend phones to my friends, I kind of do an assessment of the kind of person that they are, because in reality, it's actually not that simple. Some people might want the reliability that iPhones seem to have, which is in the seemingly lower cost of repair and availability of parts in Nigeria here. I don't know how it happened, but I think iPhones are now the most used phones in Lagos. It's crazy, to be honest, when you think about it. And that's the second reason, actually. Most people in Lagos just want to belong to the crowd. So before I recommend a phone to you, I have to know, are you intentional about what you want from a smartphone, or are you just buying it because it's an iPhone? And people like that are usually quick to regret their purchase because they already had what they wanted in mind, and whatever you tell them is not really going to sound okay. It's like you're just, it's whatever you say is not going to sound okay, basically. So yes, maybe the Pixel 9 Pro isn't really for everyone, but to me, it's the first Pixel that actually feels complete to an extent, and I'm still going to hold on to mine at least for now. If you've ever owned a Pixel, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, maybe it's about time. Yeah, I'm Toby, and if you enjoyed this review, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace. Okay. Okay, let's do that one last time. One last time. One last